Former Israeli Deputy Prime Minister, who is also Foreign Affairs and Justice Minister, Tzipi Livni, says Hamas is a stumbling block to peace between Israel and Palestine.
Speaking exclusively to the SABC, Livni says the international community must continue to try and broker peace to end the conflict.
Unlike Hamas, what we are trying to do as a democratic country that is defending its citizens is to act against Hamas militants, against the terrorists, trying to avoid civil casualties. Therefore, we called the people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, to leave the places where they are, because Hamas is using them as human children to live, and let us act just against Hamas. But unfortunately, in times of war, there are civil casualties that we are trying to avoid. So the grief of a family that lost a loved one here or there, it's the same. But yet, I ask the international community not to make the comparison between those that entered into homes, ignited children, decapitated the heads, and those are trying to defend themselves. And by acting against terror, sometimes there are civil casualties. But I think that the most important thing now is to speak in long term. How can we hopefully achieve peace in the future? And since Hamas does not represent the legitimate Palestinian cause for a state, but they are acting from religious views against the existence of the state of Israel, I think that for both sides, there's a need to dismantle Gaza Strip or to dismantle Hamas from its power, and hopefully to have Gaza with another regime that respects their lives and ours.
You're talking about the long term. There is no way the war, the guns, the bombs can stop the suffering of many people. It will rather aggravate the situation. And therefore, the war is not a solution. You need to find a way to have a ceasefire so that you can talk about peace and the long term. And it looks like Israel is quite clear. When I spoke to the minister last week, he said, even if ordinary Palestinians are killed, so be it. Is that being responsible?
I share your views that there is a need to find a way to live in peace. But the real question, with whom can we speak about peace? Now, since Hamas, and let's speak just a bit about history. In 2005, Israel decided to leave Gaza Strip. We dismantled all the settlements, we pulled out our forces, and there is no one Israeli soldier within Gaza Strip for many years now. And I supported it because I thought that this can give Gaza Strip the possibility to turn into Singapore or to flourish, and so the people who live there will have good life. Now Hamas took over, and they are not willing for so many years to do three things that are the requirements of the international community: to renounce violence and terrorism, to accept the right of Israel to exist, and to abide to the peace treaty between Israel and the Palestinians that was signed in Oslo. And therefore, if the people in Gaza want to live, and I believe that they deserve to live in freedom, so Hamas is not the option. Hamas, they are not freedom fighters. The only way to give the people in Gaza freedom is if Hamas would stop violence and terrorism. And therefore, for all of us, including Palestinians who want to live in peace, the peace negotiation goes through the Palestinian Authority, the legitimate Palestinian Authority. I was the chief negotiator for peace in the last 2 rounds of negotiations with Abu Mazen, and I believe that this is the way to achieve peace. When they are representing this extreme ideology, it's not about fighting for a Palestinian state, it's about killing Israelis. And therefore, what should we speak about? So I think that the only way is at first to act against Hamas, hopefully to demilitarize Gaza Strip, and to negotiate peace with the pragmatics and moderates on the Palestinian side.
Some
And
people
I
are
agree
saying,
that during this, I'm sorry.
I was saying, some people are saying we have this Hamas problem because Israel didn't implement all the agreements. And the fact that in 2005, Israel supported Hamas because there was hope that the authority that Israel didn't respect at that time needed to be embarrassed. Some people are saying Hamas is a product of the response of Israel to these issues.
I mean, come on. We left Gaza Strip. I evacuated thousands of Israelis from their homes in Gaza Strip. Most of them were born there because I thought that this will give hope for peace. Hamas not only took over, he killed also Fatah, the other side of Palestinian politics. He threw them from the roofs, he killed them. Why the Palestinian Authority is not willing to take over Gaza? They are afraid of Hamas. So, in fact, Israel doesn't want to reoccupy Gaza. We don't want to be there. The only reason that we are fighting now is to give security to our people. And the only way that Gaza Strip can be free is only if Hamas would renounce violence and terrorism. So to blame Israel for helping Hamas, come on. I mean, this is a violent terrorist organization that is abusing the situation. Because we left, because we pulled out our forces, they took over. So it started as a Palestinian problem that turned into Israeli one, and in a way, regional one.
As a person who has been involved, in trying to find a solution, at this moment, the world is looking at a leadership like yourselves. But what we have the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, who is not willing to hear other points of view, particularly from the international community. For you, what is it that can be done to have sober minds around this issue?
I am the political opponent for so many years to Benjamin Netanyahu. I ran against him and I criticized his policy because I believe in two states for two peoples, and there is an internal debate in Israel, and he doesn't, or others don't believe in this. But now, when this is what Hamas is doing, so negotiating with Hamas is not only not moral or useless, it's the wrong thing to do. So I hope that the day after, Gaza will be controlled with more legitimate and pragmatic forces, and I do hope that also in Israel will restart believing also that peace is possible. Even though, frankly, we are mourning our deaths, and people believe that, unfortunately, now it looks more problematic than ever to achieve peace. But I do hope that if Hamas stop existing in Gaza Strip and we have a pragmatic leadership on the Palestinian side and a pragmatic leadership on the Israeli side, we will find hope for peace.
Let's look at
Let's
look at the humanitarian crisis. Well, we see trucks getting into Gaza, but it is still a drop in an ocean. What is your view? How do we ensure that those who are in need of aid do get the help that they need, as we've heard from the Secretary General of the United Nations and also the Director General of the World Health Organization?
And also the United States, during his visit to Israel, President Biden demanded Israel also to open the humanitarian corridor, and this is what we are doing. I'm not saying that the situation is easy there, but in terms of humanitarian needs, the corridor is open through Egypt, to the border of Gaza and Egypt. And it's quite difficult to find the way to help the people without helping Hamas, because what Hamas is doing is until now they took the money that other countries gave Gaza and used it instead for food and making better life to the Palestinians in order to build and buy more weapons. So now there's a need, and this is what Israel also is doing, is opening the humanitarian corridor. But also, since we are talking about humanitarian needs, I also believe that it's not less important to call on Hamas to release babies and children and women that they are holding as hostages. I mean, I'm a grandma of 9-month-old baby, and I cannot stop thinking about this baby that they are holding with other children. So this is also a humanitarian perspective that need to be addressed as well. Not instead of helping on humanitarian issues on the other side, but it's not less important.
Let's look at the talks in Egypt over the weekend. Do you think they will go far enough, or these talks did assist in terms of perhaps moving the needle, in terms of trying to bring stakeholders together? Unfortunately, I didn't see representation or a delegation from Israel.
I think that, I'm not sure, but I think that we were not invited. Also, at first, the idea was to have a meeting when President Biden was in the region in Jordan with the Jordanian, Palestinian, Egyptian, and Americans. Now it turned into Egypt, was postponed, and now it was in Egypt. I think that the role of the international community is very important also by deciding what will be, how the day after will look like in Gaza. Because Israel doesn't want to reoccupy Gaza. If Hamas stays, and Hamas will not stay, but if it stays, it will be a horrific situation again, and another rounds and rounds of violence. And therefore, who can take over Gaza for the benefit of the Palestinians living there, and also for Israel's security? What the Palestinian Authority is willing to do, what Egypt is willing to do, the US, the United Nations maybe. So I think that there's a need for creative minds to think together and to find a solution to this, because otherwise we'll have, rounds and rounds and rounds again, or Israel will stuck there without any possibility to give the key to another more pragmatic regime.